case something happens to collaborate. So I've got a spare version of our class. Okay. So what did you do?
I bought a load of books, like Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press, both theory and practical suggestions, like classroom activities.
Right, and?
And did a lot of reading, and then tried putting in some of the strategies, sort of seeing how they fit. I had to modify them a lot because a lot of the activities were written for maybe European students of English who already had some fair proficiency. But my students really had very low English, and it was just a process of trying new things and seeing how it worked, and getting feedback, in class, and seeing what best suited those particular students.
Right. So what year was it?
It was a vocational college, so it was ages.
Okay, can you hear me? Because I can't hear you now. Oh my God, I stuffed up things as always. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm listening to you actually through my microphone, which is really weird, not through my headphones. I just got, I mixed up some things, but it's okay. So what year was it? In what year were you in Thailand?
1998.
98. Oh yeah. Well, I gather that was a long time ago. So I'll just push you a little bit, okay? Because I want to contextualize a little bit what I'm doing rather than actually just give you, I'm highly theoretical. My PhD was theoretical, although I do a lot of practical things. When I actually do things, I do practical things and then I theorize them. Well, I talk to people how they, a lot about theory. So I end up actually most of the time talking too much theory. So I'd like us to actually have a chat a little bit before we go into, what I call Ania's obsession with proper understanding of why we do things. So it was the late 90s. So what do? You say, for example, you are in Poland. I'm just speaking Poland because I'm Polish. You're in Poland and you want something. What do you do today?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Well, you're in Poland and you want to, there's a person, on the train. You're on the train in Poland and you want to find that you're going to Krakow and you have no idea what to do in Krakow. You never checked, you have no idea. And the only people you have around are people speaking Polish. What do you do? How do you get information? What do you do? How do you talk to people in Poland when you don't know Polish? What do you do today? 2016.
I guess you could use Google Translate on your phone.
Right. Would you do that in your classroom in lesson 1, year 1?
No.
Because?
It's throwing too much new language.
You see, that's what I'm.
I use pictures.
You see, that's the thing. And here it comes. Here it comes. What's happening? What happens naturally to us? So we go to, we go to Poland, and naturally we use Google Translate. There's a lot of devices on the net that you could actually use to play with. Just the other day, someone gave me a great link, but how the reading Braille results there. Okay, I have to read that. I don't know how I have no idea where I got it from, but I'm just gonna look at it another day. So here it is. Someone sent me a very good link, but I lost it. But I know this one, so we're just gonna have a look at this one. So, Oh my goodness, I don't know whether you can hear it. Do you know Talk Typer?
No, I haven't heard of that before.
And if you actually click here, and there's another system, I might be patient enough, and just don't know where so you've got the Russian, you've got Polish probably here, you've got Portuguese. I wonder whether it's Indonesian you have here. So basically you click on this microphone and you speak in Indonesian, and the text is gonna come up here. Very interesting. Yeah, so that's another tool. Another thing is, I'm just pushing you, okay, because that's what I want to do today. Just playing. I'm just playing because everybody else is playing. So I don't know how to find it. So we will go, what did I create? Ni hao. How do you spell ni hao?
Nihao.
H-A, okay, O.
Oh,
Ni hao, I don't want like
yeah.
that. I just,
Nihao.
yeah, but I want like this. Ni hao, hi. Oh my goodness, it's not coming up. I created a website. Okay, Ania, Lian, Ni hao, hi. You got the idea? It was for high school, right? So it's a Ni hao, like this, or the other way, that this. Ni hao hi, which is like hi hi. It's playing on hi.
Okay.
It looks like me, so let's have a look. Oh my goodness, that's just a blog I created. But I wonder whether I have, let's have a look what we have here. Anyway, so let's have a look. Where's Ni Hao Hi? Now let's imagine, for argument's sake, it isn't, but let's imagine for argument's sake, all these words are Chinese, right? Real words, like they mean something. I pulled them out from some newspaper, but let's say, when a person studies Indonesian, right? And they're excited. They really excited. They come to your classroom and they are what? How old will they be? 13? 12? What year will you be?
Well, I guess early teens, being
Yeah,
14, 15.
yeah. They'll be excited. And you say, well, you are intelligent as a 14-year-old or 13-year-old, you're very intelligent, but in Indonesian, we have to start from ground zero. And they go, oh my God, what does that mean? And you say, well, you can't have a website. It's lots of words. We're not going to use Google Translate. We're not going to use TalkTyper. We're going to start with pictures. And they go, we've been doing pictures since we were 5. And you go, that's it. We're going back to foundation year. What I'm trying to say is, I'm just putting things into your head. So where are the sort of school Chinese culture dictionary? These are resources. I've got some students' work, but about our class, and this is all made up. I just was teaching Mandarin teachers how to teach Chinese, and I made it all up just in 5 seconds, the whole thing. Our class, and then we have students, so you can go to the student Tamara. Oh my goodness, what have I done? Wrong Tamara here. And Tamara has her own website and with pictures and so on. And she also shows you stuff, her projects, which will not come through because Google doesn't nowadays allow for these things to come through, but maybe it will show somewhere else. So all her projects are online on her website. Oops, I lost it altogether, didn't I? No, it's coming through, but it's gonna take a while. So I'll wait for that one. So she's got about the Chinese etiquette. I made it up just for the argument's sake. For Chinese etiquette, ancient tales. Here she's got the tale of two pots. Something about cooking. I'm not saying to do it like this, but what I'm saying is it is possible for your students to actually have websites. Um, and it is possible for these websites to be visible provided that the system allows them to come through. So you should have a picture here, and you should actually a slideshow. That should be a slideshow with voice and all of that. But Google Sites doesn't allow it to actually show. So, but my point really is, you have a school website with students saying something about their classroom, which you can't see because it's not all of the website is visible. But you know, so you've got all the students here listed. Oh no, it wasn't here, it was here. Students listed and so on. Ah, can you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, so here there's a link here. This is me speaking. Okay, so it could have been your student speaking in Indonesian here. This presentation is about it's a story about two pots. A presentation made by Ania Lian. Surely a beginner can say that. And now this is a sophisticated tale of two pots, but you can make it simple. You can make it so simple that I even created a song, which is just 4 lines. But you know, so there were two pots. One was happy, one was not. You know, and then the lady asked them why they not sad, why this one is sad, and he says something, and then she repairs it, and all is well. Anyway, there's a moral to the story. So what I'm saying, what I'm really trying to say is that you have cohesion here. You've got identity. The classroom has its own identity. You might have actually some resources for them to quickly check and play at home with, whatever, or you can actually give them capacity to actually write, because if you use Google Sites, for example, the students, you can actually give permission to students to edit some pages and not edit others. So they could actually shove their stuff that they find about China and Chinese or Indonesia, and they could actually enrich the resources of their classroom about the things they found. So all of that. And then also they have their class. So they can go home or somewhere, and we can talk about it during the semester, or I know, somewhere where where they actually make displays of their work, or even at home or whatever. They can say, this is our class. This is, you could have a group picture here. I just put my own favorite pictures here, but you could have whatever. And this is our class, and this is one by one, and these are our projects and everything. And there's a sense of a spirit of togetherness, a spirit of a team, and people have an identity, and it stays from year to year. So they can build up. So they do something in semester 1, then something in semester 2, something in semester 3, and so on. So that's just sort of thing I'm showing to you at this very moment. And I wanted you to know that, and you would know in any event, that with Google Translate, your students could do this in 5 minutes, right?
Well, yeah, but I don't know how good a job it would do. Google Translate's
Badly,
not.
badly. Google Translate will translate it really badly. So what do you do then? You go to Google Translate, and then you put some text in English. Oh my goodness. You put some text in here or here in English. It comes out in Indonesian. One version of Google Translate, I don't know which one, or maybe once I have a text, it will do something. It allows you to actually play it so they can hear the text in Indonesian. They can hear it as many times as they want to. So they can hear it in English and they can hear it in Indonesian. Of course it will translate badly. So the question is not whether we should allow them to use Google Translate, because you would use it in Poland, I would use it in Indonesia. So it's not evil. It's just that if we want to use it in Poland to get a quick information about what to see in Krakow, then it will work. But if we want to edit our text so that from Google, to take it a step higher from Google Translate so that it actually does sound Indonesian, then we have a problem. How will we do it? Right? So that's the question. The question is not really, will I use Google Translate? Because everybody does. The question is, okay, so once it translates badly, what do I do then with my students? So that's the sort of thing that I would like us to think about. What will I do with my 25 students or 14 students in the classroom? We've got all this website. We've done it in 20 minutes with all these texts that were vandalized by Google Translate. And what do we do next? And there are ways to go about it. But look at that. We already have a project. We haven't even thought, we didn't even look into activities in the Oxford book, what to do, how to keep children engaged and how to put Indonesian in their head. We haven't even thought about it. We already have a project. And not only we have a project to create a classroom website, we have actually an ongoing project because basically we might students will want to put things in it. And that these things are about them. And then what we have is a situation like Google Translate. Sooner or later, people run out of ideas of what to say about themselves. But so the question is no longer whether we allow them to create a website about themselves or about the classroom, but how can we inspire them for these websites to be amazing? What we would do. So I just want you to sort of start thinking, like you showed openness in the beginning and said, I'm open. And that's the point of my actual introduction to this ECM 251 is we live in the 21st century. The 21st century is not so much the century of knowledge because everybody says knowledge is everywhere, but nobody knows where to find it. So people talk about Google effect, which is like so much information, but nobody can find it. That's because Google is not the only search engine we should have, but that's another story. But so basically what happens in the 21st century, we need to actually learn how to work with resources, how to find resources and how to work with resources. It's not about prattling out 27 words in Indonesian and getting from the students what you expect, which means being Ania, me, when I was 29. I have a communist past, and I had the best background I could ever wish as an educator. I come from a communist country where we had to memorize books. Forget about words, forget about poems. I memorized entire books in geography, in mathematics, in physics, in languages. I memorized everything. Everything. Not because we weren't taught how to think, we were, but we had to include so much information that it was impossible for a 13-year-old brain to just spell it all out. I had to memorize entire books. The pressure was so high. So it's not true that in communist countries we were trying to be stupid. A little bit it is true, but not much. What really was, it was so much information. So I really became perfect at memorizing. And strategies for memorizing. So when I went in Australia to teach at the University of Queensland, I knew what to memorize to learn German. All I had to do is subject my students to this method. I chose, look at this now, as a teacher who was, whatever you think of how to teach load, you are Western product, one way or another, right? So listen to this, with your Western culture, listen to my ideas when I went to University of Queensland, how to teach them. I knew what they need to learn. I knew how to make them remember the stuff. I knew what's the best way for them to actually retain it, and I knew how to test them so that I get from them what I wanted. Aren't you if I was your wife, you would have slapped me. I mean, you would say, come on, Ania, where's the room for me? Right? As teachers, we have this bias, and I get it from students. I teach not only load, I teach also literacy. And I get it quite a lot from students, pre-service teachers, who tell me about the teacher will do this, the teacher. And I'm just thinking, if you actually spoke the same words, but to your husband or to your wife, sooner or later that person would just walk away because they would say, you don't need me. The room is full of you. So as teachers, we kind of think that's all right. My ideas, my concepts. After all, I'm here in Ania's class to learn what I should be doing, right? So as teachers, we think we have this obligation to perform, but we've been long enough on this in this 21st century and around Western discourses, but we also have this parallel discourse in our head that it's not necessarily about us performing, it's about them performing, it's about making room for them, it's about not hijacking them, replacing them with our own vision of them. I mean, that ethical discourse is also present in our heads. I don't need to teach you loud pedagogy. Surely you must have heard it one way or another. The problem very often is that people don't know what to do with it. Even in most, I mean, my PhD was a total critique of the field of teaching languages. Um, even when we actually produce those ethical discourses, we still don't know what to do with it. So because the textbooks are very often written within the very traditional 19th century sort of worldview, and especially a lot of books are written by people from America, and Americans are very much into performance. Teacher must perform, outperform herself and himself. So very much in those, when things are written in those cultures of thinking, then even though we're aware of the ethics and of the ethical problems that this kind of pedagogy might be creating, we're actually whitewashing the whole thing, and just by saying that the teacher must perform, the teacher must know, the teacher is the knower. So, being a little bit ironic and being a little bit senior at this very moment in my life, I can afford a little bit of a sarcasm here and say, well, if you know that much, why don't you just get a Nobel Prize? Because surely the teacher who knows the students and knows students' needs and knows what they know, they surely know more than any neuroscientist on the planet. I just have to apply for a Nobel Prize. See? The neuroscientists don't know what's in people's heads, but just ask the teacher. The teacher knows it all. So you get a pretty much a gist here with this discussion that what I will be talking about, or not what I will be talking, what I will be looking at, what I will want us to look at is the ethical aspect of load pedagogy. And it's not necessarily of how we will fill the time with the activities we design, but what can we actually do in order for our students to actually, I can't think of words which are not already stolen by the discourses, current load discourses, but let's be a little bit plain about it, or kind of regular. I just want students to actually so-called engage. I want students to actually use Indonesian or any load for the purposes that makes them happy. I want them to use. I don't want them to learn what I think that the sort of I don't want them to learn what is foreign. I want to use. I want them to inhabit, to bring the foreign into their own spaces and make it their own. And that was a little bit critical discourse, but I want them to take what is foreign and own it, implant it on what they know. So anyone can create a website, anyone can create a blog, anyone can create a poem, anyone can create a story in order an audiobook for other children. Anyone can make have a, like, I'm not sure whether you're aware, have you ever heard of PechaKucha things? Do you know what's a PechaKucha by any chance?
Sorry, what's it called?
Yeah, I know, it's very fun. It's actually it's actually Japanese, but I'm just not sure how I can make it visible for you. So I'll just try. You might see it now. PechaKucha.
No, I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, PechaKucha. So PechaKucha is just basically people all over the world. It's 20 slides in 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes or less. What is it? 20 slides and 1 minute per slide, or I don't know, 20 slides, and you have 20 seconds for each slide to make a presentation public. Well, that's what actually native speakers do. But you can actually, and we will talk all about it, we could create dialogues between schools, dialogues between classrooms where children from Indonesia who are studying actually Indonesian literature, Indonesian language. So 13-year-olds, like in English, in Australia, we have to study English. In Poland, we have the Polish language, and in Indonesia, they study Indonesian. We could actually connect together with those students and actually have debates together and use the PechaKucha format to actually um, formalize them in a way that actually our students can do, are allowed to do, say, our students and their students are allowed to do research, and then they are allowed to actually record themselves using PowerPoint to make that presentation, to engage in a debate on an issue of their interest. And then students in Australia could listen to it, respond. And if we have 5 or 6 groups in Indonesia creating their own PechaKucha, so one classroom may have 6 groups, and each group talks about different aspects of a problem. So then the students in Australia could actually engage any of those, don't have to actually respond to a particular uh, issue presented by the whole class, but to a particular issue presented by a particular group of students from that school. So, and then you have a history, you create a history, you've got a rich website of different slideshows with powerful debates. And students, I mean, I've tried some of it with Indonesian TESOL teachers, and and just we didn't pursue it any further for whatever reason. But you know, students in Indonesia were doing things. I was hoping they would do things on peace, or on war, or on marriage. I don't know, you know, like we in the West sort of do. And they were talking about fast cars. I must be out of touch when it comes to teenagers. So fast cars, birth defects. What else do they do? Something really like I was, and the migrants in Australia, because I work with students doing that in a migrant context. So Indonesian migrants in Australia we're talking about herbs. You know how people plant herbs in their gardens, so they wanted to talk about plants. So yeah, it was interesting. What I'm really saying is that there's the foreign, and when the teacher presents the foreign as the foreign, nothing creates more stress than the unknown, right? There's an unknown there, and you've got the 14-year-old who's now ready to grab the world because they are out of the nappies, not quite out of the house, but just about, and there is you, and there's the world around, and we not only bring them back to pictures and single words, but there's this foreignness, and it's difficult on top of the maths and on top of physics and on top of the English they do, there's this other foreignness, and it just becomes too academic and too um, difficult to actually relate to. And load has been treated in schools, really, this is an elective as well, right? Load has been treated in schools as really, especially in Australia, as not needed, not really that necessary. And when I teach actually literacy, I teach literacy teachers, and I tell them when you have children who are 5-year-olds, you must also introduce foreign scripts. And not foreign scripts like Polish, which has the same script as English. I mean like Urdu, like Arabic, like other, totally other, Japanese, different scripts, Japanese scripts, and so on. So why my pre-service teachers love it, my colleagues at CDU are saying, well, this is not needed because we have this history of foreign languages being difficult. And when you come to the classroom and as a male, I mean, don't tell me it's different because I've been a female and I know exactly how, and I've been a student in language. And I know when the male teacher walked in, it was a completely different world. We loved it. We knew that males are easy. They light. They wear. You get things done, right? And that's what I want. I want this lightness in your classroom. I want this, let's have fun. Let's play. Let's get things done. Done. So for load teaching or load pedagogy for me is not a series of sequenced activities that build on one another, because there is no sequence. There is no person on the planet that will tell you that they have a scientific evidence that this is the sequence for learning a load. And even if someone did invent it, there's a theoretical problem with it. And the problem is that that sequence would have been coherent and make sense within the theoretical parameters they set up for that particular, for this to emerge, right? So when you look at the world through a round tube, it kind of looks round. But as soon as you make your tube triangular, you think that the world might be triangular. So the parameters through which you look, they actually will dictate how the object will look like. So even if someone said, well, this is the holy principles of load acquisition, in fact, it isn't. It's just as holy as his parameters that he set up a priori to his theorem. So they are as holy as his or her parameters allow. And that's the little conundrum that we're facing. So the way out of it is do not hijack, do not have a necessary sequence, do not have anything, but basically increase play in your class, increase play. So I really love the idea that we had this discussion today, because I obviously wanted to do something more sophisticated and I could show it to you, and I wanted to go to the curriculum and blah, 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 but that's what I am. I am intense and I am highly theoretical and I have so much information in my head, but I realized that people cannot relate to all these words unless we actually have in the beginning, in this introductory session, a small chat about how to be open to the new, because we cannot continuously come to classroom century, not just a decade, not just year in after year, year after year, century after century doing the same thing. And I'm not gonna overload you with that traditions of language teaching. If you really, I have put some stuff on the website, wherever they are. Sorry, I still have this cough. This is in module 1, you'll find some stuff there. I don't like the guy Kumaravadivelu. I think he switches camps depending on how the wind blows. But he's written this thing, but according to me, it's not finished because he actually doesn't give us a way out. But at least in this book, he's starting to actually indicate problems with load pedagogy. So if you want to look at it, please do. If you want to browse it, there's no need. This is only an undergraduate unit, so you don't actually have to know the history of methods. But in a nutshell and in 10 seconds, the history of load method is about people inventing holy sequences for then what's the word, pushing students through that sequence. So someone sits there, invents some sort of amazing algorithm, and then pushes the students through it. So every method in load was just a different algorithm. And it might have been all right in the 19th or earlier 20th century to do that for whatever reasons, but where we have more people who finish PhDs now than we had 100 years ago. We've got more readings, more thinking that we have gone through, and we really, without actually even looking into the intellectual underpinnings that are problematic in those methods, ethically they are actually problematic, if only because they are all about the teacher. They used to do what I produced to you before when I talked about myself, when I spoke about myself at the University of Queensland. I knew what to do, I knew what the issues were to be learned, I knew what to expect from it. Was just all about me. I was just like a little Hitler in the classroom, and students loved it. Trust me, they did. They did. I had an excellent rapport. All was good. I couldn't understand why my husband, well, back then he wasn't yet my husband. What did he want? What would he want me to use a video for? What do you need a video for when you study German? You tell me. Huh? You would say, well, it's obvious because you live in the era now of mass media, right? All of this is at the tip of finger, at the what do you call it? At your fingertips. But back then it wasn't. I could do really well without the video. What else? I could teach them German without them ever listening to a German speaker. What did they need the German speaker for when they had a textbook and me? Right? This is how we can, how not just our own thinking, but our own success can blind us to what we're doing. In fact, the more successful we are in our teaching, the more we should be actually wondering about the underpinnings. Are we actually making room for students? Are we hijacking their brains and everything, their time, everything? Are they giving us back what we expect from them? Is there room for them to actually expand? Can they talk? As opposed to just please repeat? So these are the sort of things that come with openness, freedom, and and with the 21st century. And 21st century is not the 21st century. What it is, that as you would be aware by now, that there have been a lot of documents written by a lot of people that talk about, back then we spoke about 21st century skills. Now we talk about attributes. Then we will be talking about some sort of, in education we talk about capabilities, the general capabilities, and then which are the kind of skills that we want our students to have. And my experience in schools tells me that teachers teach everything but capabilities. Teachers teach everything but priorities, cross-curriculum priorities. So because of that pedagogy, which actually refused to be open, refuted openness, it just became so narrow and so controlling that something as generic as high order thinking skills, like like general capabilities or cross-curriculum priorities, they just can't fit in. And as my student last semester said, how am I gonna include Asia when I teach Italian? Cross-curriculum priorities are about Asian connection. Well, what am I going to do with that when I teach Italian? And my response, I don't know what my response was, but at this very second, when I have to employ my irony, I would say, well, surely Italians never speak about the Asians. No, they just talk about pizza. Right? See, you can get yourself so square pegged to the point that when someone says to you, you have to actually make some Asian connection in your load teaching, and you can say, well, but I'm teaching Italian. Has nothing to do with Asia. Certainly not. In Italy, nobody has heard of Asia. They don't talk about it. They don't cook it. They don't make connections. They don't have trade with Asia. Nothing. That's how you can actually, with words, we can drive ourselves to such a corner that we can't see anything but the end of our nose. And I really enjoyed that class today, Matthew. I don't know. Would you like to make some comments? Because I would love to hear. I'm sure I challenged you. I'm sure because you're quiet and I'm not even sure you're there.
No, I'm here, just listening. Listening and thinking.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's the most important thing. If I can actually ask for anything in this class, is rather than a person running with some algorithm and starting to create assignment one, I'm much happier with you to do assignment one, in week 11. No, when is the assignment due? Week 8? We can do assignment, whatever. Yeah, we do it in week 7. Can't be that difficult to create 5 lessons, right? But what I would like us to do is to think how we can, to actually do some thinking and start maybe collecting some resources that I think might be useful for this kind of creative thing. Oh my goodness, what did she say? So don't do. So if I can invite you to do anything, was all right. I don't know what she wants, but what about if I created my own website for teaching Indonesian in school? So I just create a website. And it is. I mean, if you teach Indonesian and you like it, it's like a drug, because I taught German or whatever I do. My life is actually somewhere else at this very moment. But whenever I do something, um, I know it's a drug. So creating a website for teaching Indonesian must be like, eating a chocolate by a girl for a girl. Like we live on chocolates, and it's like a drug. It's addictive. So by all means. And then what did Ania do? Ania had some resources. Yeah, you do resources, so you can actually, have a look. Um, what resources did she have? Let's have a look what I had. Let's go to homepage. I'm trying to get to homepage if this allows me. Um, I think it thinks I'm in homepage. Oh my goodness. Um, well, anyway, so what I had the whole school. I had a picture. I had news in the beginning, right, about the school. So, I had even some stories. You can actually put on the website some real stories, like from YouTube in Indonesian, some Indonesian stories, and then you can create next to it a PowerPoint like this, which is a simplification of that story, you know. So there's a beautiful story about the woman and her two pots in Chinese, and then you can create a couple of. I have here five slides. It's probably only four. It's only four because because the first one doesn't count because it's number one. It's an introductory. But you know, you can actually start sort of getting addicted into it and going like, oh my God, maybe my students will hate me, but am I not having fun with this? You can actually go to PechaKucha and go, what the heck is this PechaKucha? Oh my God, it's a worldwide event. Look at that. It's all in, you can have PechaKucha in Indonesia. I wonder, there must be PechaKucha in Indonesian. So, and I'm not saying you would use it instantly with your, 14-year-olds, but investigate for yourself. This one is probably in English. There is also in many languages. PechaKucha exists in every language. It is basically PechaKucha means it means chit chat in Japanese. And what they do, they have these events. I mean, people obviously use PechaKucha for different reasons and have transformed it into different functions. But what they do is what they do in all right, so there will be a person you can see giving a PowerPoint on. So you can. Okay, so she's talking about how to create a PechaKucha, but basically, so say it started like with architects. The profession of architects was missing, you know, mixing together. So what they did in every city, in many cities, like in Tokyo, in Amsterdam, in Italy, in Darwin, I think once maybe as well. So in different cities, they create those events where people submit their PechaKuchas. So there's this, so this is the original form, right? Before people hijacked it and changed it into different things. But basically, there's a stage, and someone like me who wants to talk about new development in Canberra that is different, and it's about community, and it's about money saving and going away from banks. I want to talk about it, so I've got 20 seconds per slide. I've got 20 slides. It's about 6 minutes. So they display my PowerPoint, and within this 6 minutes, I have to actually tell my story. And then the next person, the next person, the next person. People love it. It's like being in a bar or in a, what do you call them? In Australia, you go to the pub, being in a pub, but there's a stage and someone is presenting, and there's another person, another person, another person, right? On issue that is actually of your passion. So people now use it for different topics and in every language possible, and in language teaching it's being used, but not in a very imaginative way. God knows why. Maybe because people are too worried about grammar and words, or maybe because, I don't know, people don't have time. I don't know. So there. So you can actually create your own website and start thinking. So unfortunately, I can't go to the home page here anywhere. But what I had here in the Nihao, I had, I'll just remove Tamara and maybe it will take me to Nihao. What I also had was, I mean, I just made it up. I took it from somewhere, but you can have much better resources you can find, like different videos, different games, different tools, like maybe even make a link to the evil Google Translate, maybe to talk typer in Indonesian. God knows what you can find. And all of a sudden, rather than you thinking as a student, what am I gonna do for assignment one? You actually create your own library. And once you create your own library, you start actually having things to use for your assignment one and definitely for your assignment two, which is about nothing else but having your own portfolio like this. Right? So when I in assignment 2 ask students to actually have your portfolio, have your this, it's not because I want you to satisfy my needs. It's because that without a website which actually gives you a quick access, like even now, I mean, this thing I created for Mandarin teachers, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, right? But without a website that gives you I've got, they'll give you quick access to examples you want to show or something. It's really hard to be a teacher because what do? You just run with your textbook only. And if you only run with a textbook and one video per class, all I would say to you, well, what about if other people don't want to see this video? Is it all? Is it all in this world of resources and diversity? All we're gonna do is give them one text and one video. Just show you what I do. Ania Lian, CDU. If you go to my, oh my goodness, like when you need your website, you can't find it. So what we're gonna do is Google Sites. Google Sites. Hopefully we can find. Here it is. I've got several websites, so that's why I don't remember the ending. So this is my professional portfolio today. You can't see all of that. I don't know, maybe you can. So so it's about Ania, blah, blah, blah. And I update it once a year, and it's not enough, literally not enough, because my life is faster than just once a year. But I've got here Education Hub, and if I really want to find games or something, I just scroll down, and I look at this, ESL resources. Whether they're good or bad, I've got them, I've got some. I used to actually have even this newsletter here where I would put stuff I like, find something on YouTube. But by now I have found so many things on YouTube that I ran out of. I mean, this newsletter would not, I don't know. So I'm doing something else instead. But yes, so I've got links here to professional organizations, then some what I call pedagogic resources. I don't know what it is anymore. I've done it also years ago. And even video tutorials I created about how to create Google site website. But just to show you another thing, what Google Sites allows you, it allows you to actually have your own database of stuff. So it organizes them automatically, alphabetically. So I've got stuff on different issues, and you can see that it's just never ending. Never, ever, 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 ever ending. And you can actually have much more powerful databases. You can use either this one, which is free. I don't know whether it's free anymore, but for me it's free. So there's a lot of things. So what I'm saying, rather than think what textbook I will use or how am I gonna create those 5 lessons for assignment 1, just get excited. Get excited, create your own website. Stop, like I did it for the Mandarin teachers, put whatever that you want in it. And then when we will be thinking of how to design those 5 lessons, this resource in load, we will look at what you have and then we'll play with it and we'll think how can we do that in a way that you are supportive to your students, but you do not hijack the learning process. You don't become the person you don't put them into the machine, where before they were like this and this is what's gonna pop out because you took them through all these processing mechanisms. When I was a student in West Germany, I had to work. So I work in that factory that was turning vegetables into frozen vegetables, right? So they had this whole process, one machine. I swear to you, it was fantastic. The normal stuff popped in, it got washed, it got something else, and like about 10 minutes later, it's already frozen and it's popped at the other end. It had stages. And that's what we want in education. People in education have been used because the industrial era only happened 200 years ago. And when it happens, it's just 5 people invent it, right? And then by the time 5 billion people catch up with it, then 200 years passes, and that culture of industrialization is with us. So we think we have to put students through some tube where there are processes, and when they pop in here, they don't know Indonesian, and when they pop out, they will be at stage 4. Right? And that's a machinery kind of model that we have in our heads. And I might just ask you to talk to me about something you want some more. I just wanted to horrify everyone before I finish, and I want to do that. I don't have to do that, but I will. I've got a what do you call it? goddaughter. You know how when they get christened, you become the godmother and then you become a godmother, and they are goddaughters. Anyway, in Catholic sort of thing. I think they're not Catholic, they're Protestant. No, they're not Protestant, they're the other thing, Orthodox. Anyway, to cut the long story short, she's now 13. She has studied Japanese for 2 or 3 years. What can she do? She said to me for 2 years, she was able to count in Japanese to 10. That's all for 2 years. And now she's got a really good Japanese teacher and they are counting to 100 now. My heart broke. I said nothing. Yep, she'll go to Japan and she'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Really good. Really, really good. And just to finish off, when I was doing French, I mean, later on I married my husband and his mother was French and he was French, so we spoke French at home and I learned French. But before I met my husband and when I was learning French, we were doing this amazing course in French at University of Queensland. Obviously not the one that my husband designed, some other person. We had a textbook, we had videos, and we learned. I tell you what we learned. Till today I remember. Mireille met Pierre in the taxi, and Mireille forgot her gloves, and Pierre found these gloves and went to find her to give her these gloves. I can't remember any other chapter anymore from this book, but the first one, and that happens all the time. Kids remember just the first lesson is always remembered the most. But you know what? When I had a boyfriend in France, or ex-boyfriend in France, because I lived a little bit in Paris when I was in Germany, and I wanted to call him and I wanted to say, Jean-Luc, I'm learning French now, and I'm really good at it, because I was getting high distinctions, and I wanted to say something in French. I couldn't say a word, because what was I going to say to him? Mireille forgot her gloves? See? Trouble. When my students repeat the things that we think they need to know, then all of a sudden the models of the world that we were as students supposed to acquire and then transform into our own, the transformation didn't happen. All I knew is that Mireille forgot her gloves. Till today I can say, où sont les gants de Mireille? Where are the gloves of Mireille? That's it. That's my French from school. Anyway, Matthew, your turn.
Yeah, consider us.
Pardon me?
So you said my turn.
I said nothing to him. No, we spoke German with my boyfriend. Yeah, it was my ex-boyfriend. There was no point. I mean, what was I going to talk about? Me. Oh, another sentence I remember that this guy was teaching us. Cette chair est libre. This chair is free. Yeah, I'm on the phone. I'm in Australia. He's in Paris. He's happy I'm studying French. And I'm going to say to him, this chair is free, because this guy kept walking around the classroom asking us so that we actually, somehow become free with that sentence. This chair is free, because in France, when you go to a restaurant, you really want to know where this chair is free. So he's going to make sure that you know how to say that, because how else would I work it out for myself? Right? He has to give me world models. I don't have a time in this course to actually talk about world models, but the idea that we want to impregnate students with world models is as true as the statement that there are models of the world. The world can be sequenced into models. Tell it to your mother and she will say, Matthew, you have to do like this. And you say, Mom, no, I'm doing something else. Matthew, you have to do like this. No, Mom, we're not doing this like this anymore. Matthew, this is my model of the world. Ma'am, it's no longer mine. Right? That's it. There are as many models of the world as it looks to you today after you woke up. Because tomorrow it will look different. In 5 minutes it will look different. That's why we're smart. We're not running a program. We're running creativity. Human beings are transformers. In other words, it's called culture. So, yeah, so I didn't say anything. I spoke German to him and we did well. But I learned 5 languages plus Latin, and I've been through so many experiences that I actually I had those models of teaching, those square pegging of students. I actually had that done to me more than once. I know exactly how it feels. I know it, and at many stages of my life, because Russian I learned at the age of 6, I started, and the most I learned when I was left by myself, the most I learned of German when I was left by myself, and the most of English I learned. In fact, I only learned English. Well, I had two stages of learning English. First, when I tried to play with English when I was 9, I learned a lot. In one day, I could say, in the first day, I picked up the book, a kid who never read English before, and I read, Pussycat, Pussycat, where have you been? I've been to London to visit the Queen. Till today I can say that because I worked it out by myself how to say. I knew that W is a W, and I knew that something, something, and I knew that the English can't pronounce R because the English can't hear it well. So it's very funny, children. Yeah? So I turned what I considered Polish R or real R into R. So where? I didn't have to say where, because I knew that the English don't speak like this. So I said, where? So where have you been? I've been to London to visit the Queen. You know, what have you done there? I frightened a little mouse under her chair or something like this. Well, yeah, like, no problem. No problem in one day. Whereas when I went to, but then I played basketball, so that was the end of my love with English. And then at university, the guy just didn't teach us. When I came to Australia, I learned it by watching news, movies, normal movies, soap operas. Soap operas are great because they are slow and repetitive. Whereas Sale of a Century, for the in the first year I couldn't even understand the question, let alone the answer. Right? I just couldn't. But after the first year, it was amazing how much actually just put itself together. You know. So how did I learn English when I came to Australia? Nobody taught me. Just exposing myself. I already was a teacher of German, so I already had some and I already had experiences of what not to do. So I didn't do what I wasn't supposed to do. I was doing other things. I didn't know what to do, but I knew what not to do. And I think that's the idea of maybe many things in life. Just don't do what you know not to do. Right? So if square pegging people and doing these horrific things to students and speaking on their behalf is the things not to do, well, then do the other things. That's what I said. Maybe Google Translate doesn't translate well. It doesn't mean that we can't use it. It just means that reframe the problem. The problem is, so what do you do? So students produce this website with this horrific Indonesian in it, but it's Indonesian. So what do we do next? Okay. So this question turns it into a project as opposed to being scared of an error. Or what about if a Google Translate throws out a bad sentence? Well, their life will not be ruined, I can assure you. If you gave them a dictionary to translate from the dictionary, they would do it even worse, probably, which is a proof that words don't exist. But that's something we will do another week. Prove to you that words don't exist. And so how do we teach? We don't teach vocabulary. Absolutely, you don't teach vocabulary. Everybody else teaches vocabulary, yeah, because they don't have any theory. I'm very disappointed. I'm very sad when I disappoint students, but what happens is that very often students come to university and they think they're gonna meet all these geniuses who gonna teach them how to do things. But a lot of times geniuses like us get actually pushed through the system too. So we don't have time to read semiotics. We don't have time to read philosophy of thinking. We don't have time to read neuroscience. We just don't. We get pushed. And within that time, everybody repeats the same word, which is Vygotsky. And then that's the only thing we know and we tell you. And then you think you got it from God, must be right. And then you will repeat to your students, and so on, and goes on like that. But just happened that I, had a privileged life, I have to say. Being married to a professor allowed me to do my PhD very, very part-time. And I read everything. And being married to a professor who was French, I was actually given access to a lot of people who actually spent time thinking too. So in a sense, you hear a lot of things from me that are different, but that's because I actually had time to read. And a lot of times people just don't. So, the same story gets said. It's amazing how much coherence is there in the literature. Just the Vygotsky dialogue. Vygotsky never spoke about dialogue. He might have called it dialogue, but it wasn't dialogue. So it's not a dialogic learning at all. But yeah, so I think it's what if anything I said that you could relate to because you have heard it before, it could be the word play. and play very often is not defined well, but at least we kind of agree with it that play, if done well, should create an ethical environment. Without ethical conditions, it's no longer a play. So what I would like us to think about was how we can actually create an ethical environment, an ethical where play prevails and therefore free thought prevails. And therefore things happen. People have a chance to organize and reorganize information in their heads, as opposed to being pushed somewhere as if they were a kind of, frozen vegetable, a vegetable that is going to pop out frozen. And I know the system, right? So but that just ain't gonna happen, and it's not happening, and people hate languages because they say it's really hard. And it's hard because methods of teaching are not based on students learning any language from by feeling success. Every person, like, if you start creating a website, what drives you is a sense of achievement. Oh my god, I know how to do it. Oh my god, I'm going to find out. If I don't know something, I will go on YouTube. I will ask them how to do something on Google Sites or how to do something on WordPress or something. They will tell you, and then you will apply it, and success, 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 success. Writing a website or creating a blog is a series of successes, and that's what language learning should be, but it isn't. It's a series of failures. And that's why people find it hard. And they say it's too hard. Of course, it's too hard.